Say it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bonus Round. We are going to be doing a lot more bonus rounds for the next foreseeable while.
Until June, probably. Maybe mid-May.
Yeah.
We have a chance to move out in mid-May. But even then, it'll be like we're moving out, so...
Yeah, so
they're
that's
still
busy.
setting shit up.
You have stuff to do prior.
Yeah.
So, with that having been said, let's get right into it. So, today's bonus round prompt is... favorite spin-offs! Woo!
I've been waiting for this one, because I've got one right off the top of my head.
Alright, well, why don't you jump right
It's
into it?
very easy. And that, of course, will be Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Yeah!
The best thing to happen to Metal Gear Rising, or Metal Gear since Metal Gear 4.
Okay, so for the uninitiated, what is the difference between Metal Gear Rising and the regular Metal Gear series?
Everything. Literally everything. You still got some sneaking mechanics, and I think the game wants you to do them to get like the highest rank in certain sections and stuff. They're not great. The main part of this game is, of course, the fact that it is a platinum character action game where you play as future Robo Raiden with his big old robot sword. Mm-hmm. And you character action the fuck out of everyone. The fluidity of the game, and I mean, it's a platinum game, right? Like,
yeah.
It's Bayonetta. It's non-stop action. It's big set pieces. Like one of the things you do, one of the first like tutorial bosses is just straight up a fucking what are they called from 4?
Metal Gear.
The Metal Gear.
Which ones are they?
The like smaller versions, but
yeah, but
I mean,
the really
Gears.
mobile Metal Gears.
Yeah,
but they're from Guns of the Patriots. I don't remember what they're called. But I know which ones you're talking about because I remember that boss fight.
Yeah, so that shit just opens up with that, and you're like, all right, well, okay. It's got one of my favorite parry mechanics that Platinum often adds to their games. Mm-hmm. Nier has a chip in it that you can attach to your 2B or your 9S and have that same parry mechanic going.
Oh, really?
It's much more generous in Nier Automata than it is in...
Revengeance.
But that's not to say that Revengeance is impossible either. There's a whole boss fight around the entire parry mechanic where it is literally unbeatable unless you fucking parry.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's probably my favorite spin-off. I'm still thinking to a couple of other ones.
I have a few things that I think you could go for as very obvious choices.
Yeah, I think they're just not coming to mind. Well,
I guess I could hop into one of mine.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite series is Pokemon. I mean, I love the shit out of those games. And it's spun off into a variety of offshoots.
Yeah.
Some of them are kind of known very widely, and that would be stuff like Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Ranger, some notable kind of sub-franchises of the series. But there's two in particular that come to mind when I think of like spin-offs that I really, really love. And one of them is interesting because it's kind of a spin-off of like a separate spin-off, like a spin-off of Pokemon and a spin-off of another franchise. And that's the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games.
Yes.
These games are neat in that they're the only games in the series in which you play entirely, or like that I can think of at the very least, that are RPGs where you also play as the Pokemon. Because there are other games in the franchise where you play as the Pokemon, but sometimes they're like weird action games or they're like children's games. Mm-hmm. But Mystery Dungeon, they're pretty, I'd say at some points, very difficult dungeon crawling RPGs in randomly generated dungeons.
Yeah, I remember these when these first came out, like the first iteration of these. I was like, "What the fuck is this cool ass shit?"
Yeah. So the way that they usually kind of work out, at least in my two favorite games in the series, are Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, which is the DS version. Now that I guess I'll explain to the history of the series. So the Mystery Dungeon series is like a very long-running, popular like dungeon crawling RPG series from Japan, and the Mystery Dungeon games are, I believe, the first games in the series to really hit kind of mainstream recognition in North America. Like, that's not to say that there weren't other games in the series that were published before in North America, but the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games would be the first time they were notably in kind of popular consciousness. And that's, of course, pretty much due to the Pokemon brand name being attached to them. These games are RPGs like the regular series, but as I said, completely different in terms of their play style. You explore randomly generated dungeons with a party of usually a party of 2 Pokemon. The one that you play as, and a partner Pokemon who kind of serves as your ally. And you kind of, at the beginning of the game, do a personality test that determines which Pokemon from like a list of particular ones that you will play as throughout the rest of the game. So it's kind of like picking a starter, except you play as the starter and you also don't get to choose which one you are. It's determined for you based on how you answer questions. Yeah. So in Pokemon Blue Rescue Team, I ended up playing as a Charmander. And in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Darkness, which is my other favorite game in the series, I played as a Torchic.
I always thought that was a really cool thing that those games did. Was the like question thing to figure out which Pokemon you're going to play as, and I'm sure there's clearly going to be like a limit.
Yeah.
To which ones you can be.
Yeah,
but I still thought it was nice. Yeah, I thought it was nice that it was like, you don't get to pick. You gotta answer these personality questions, and that'll
usually
determine.
I think the pool of Pokemon for the most of the earlier games, at the very least, the ones that I'm most familiar with, are like the starters that had come out up to that point: Pikachu, and then Riolu, and then a couple of other kind of unconventional choices.
Yeah.
I think it would be like, you can pick one of the starters, or you could be Riolu, like a Munchlax, a Meowth, like a bunch of kind of weird choices. But then throughout the rest of the game, it progresses like the dungeon crawling RPGs would, in that you kind of have a hub world that you go to, that you stay in, and it's kind of your home base for the game. And depending on the game you're in, you're part of a guild or organization or society that goes out in the Red and Blue Rescue Team games. You're part of a rescue organization, and in the Explorers of Time and Darkness games, you're part of an Explorers Guild, kind of like a traditional RPG. Mm-hmm. And the stories are they range from kind of fluffy, cute little like rescue mission type things in the Rescue Team games to kind of these weird cosmic horror exploratory kind of things in Explorers of Time and Darkness.
I remember they get heavy sometimes, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, they can get heavy. There is character death. You have to contend with a variety of villains. Each dungeon is usually capped off by a fight with a boss Pokemon, who's kind of like the dungeon's main boss. And there'll usually be a character who is kind of themed to the dungeon. The dungeons are typically kind of just environmental things. Like, here's these... One of my favorite ones that I really liked was a field in Explorers of Time and Darkness that was constantly being struck by lightning. And the final boss was a Luxray. And that was a really, really good dungeon. I remember that one being difficult because you could get randomly struck by lightning.
Oh, jeez.
Depending on, so you move through, the dungeons are organized in tiles, kind of like a traditional Dungeons and Dragons dungeon if you were playing a tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
And you move tile by tile, and each tile kind of has a different environmental effect. Sometimes tiles are water tiles, and you can't go over them unless you're a water Pokemon. So the type of Pokemon that you have sometimes determines where you can progress in a dungeon. I think that's really, really fun. And that's just one of the many elements that make those games really entertaining for me. They're very cathartic. and responsive kind of games where you just kind of play them and you get like an immediate emotional reaction to what you do, and they're not for everybody, but I would count those among some of my favorite spin-offs in that franchise, because there are so many good games in the Pokemon series and so many weird little offshoots and spin-offs. Yeah, and I'll talk about another one after, but why don't you go if you have one?
Yeah, one actually just came to mind. Well, like right as soon as I was like, I can't think of any anymore. Chain of Memories. Was
for the Game Boy, I imagine.
For the Game Boy. I never played the PlayStation 2 one.
Here's some advice.
You told me it was horrible.
Don't play it. It's
which
bad.
I don't understand how they could fuck it up. Like, I almost want to play it just to see how bad it feels.
The card battling is very easy to break the way that it's done in the game.
Okay.
Like it makes or breaks the game for you, and like if you have like a particular deck by the end of the game, you can smoke pretty much every boss with no effort spent. And it really sucks. It's super boring and not fun. It's tedious as well.
Fair enough.
And the game looks like shit on a PS2 because it's mostly just fucking white rooms.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's true. It was very. Yeah, it's not great for big screens. I could see that being definitely an issue.
They turned
kind of like how
3D
Dream
game,
Drop Distance wasn't great for the 3DS. Because the fucking field of view was. Oh, I got hit from behind. Oh, I got hit from behind. Oh, I got But yeah, no. Chain of Memories. Real fun card game. I like me some card games.
TCG games are fun.
Yeah.
Especially when they
Pokemon
bring in
one's
RPG
pretty good.
elements.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't remember much of it because it's been a while since I've played it, but I remember like it was pretty much the prequel to Kingdom Hearts 2, and I thought it was really cool that Naminé was there, and it set up that whole shebang.
Yeah, I think Chain of Memories might be one of my favorite stories in the Kingdom Hearts series.
Yeah, it's really cool. You got that rivalry with Axel,
and it's a really, really compelling narrative for such a comparatively small game in the series.
Yeah.
A lot occurs within the narrative that drives forward the story in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, it's got all the weight of like the Kingdom Hearts narrative too. Like, it doesn't feel dumbed down or rushed.
And it
just
didn't
feels
at the
like...
time either.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really good, fun spin-off. I remember going back, like, the level where you go back to Destiny Island. I thought that was really fucking cool.
And the first ever introduction of Twilight Town when you fight Vexen.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so fucking cool. Because you were like, what is this place? I have never seen this before.
And, like, the music for that game, too, was...
superb.
Very, very good. But, I mean, it's Kingdom Hearts game, so of course it will be.
Well, it was, like, really, really good. A lot of it was kind of 32-bit renditions of the music from the first game, and it translated so excellently to the sound font of the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
It was a really beautiful soundtrack. That game is excellent. Really, really underrated, actually. It's one of the gems for the Game Boy Advance. On a console with many gems to behold. That is one of the brightest, you know?
I'm actually gonna look for it now because I want to play it again, but not on the PS.
It's a really superb game. I've been playing an emulated copy of it recently, and I've been enjoying it.
Illegal! You're going to jail.
It's really hard to find otherwise. But
I found one for $11.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Dope! Holy shit, that's crazy. Buy that shit.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, you got 3 used from $17, and you got 1 new for $1,500. Or no, $1,500.
Yeah, that's
$1,500.
Right.
$1,500, yeah.
That's kind of what I was expecting.
Jesus Christ. I think I'll go with the used one, thanks.
Maybe. Another spin-off that I love, and it's once again a Pokemon one, but Pokemon's got a lot of great spin-offs. I can name a few off the top of my head, just kind of that I love. But truly one of my favorite games of all time, and one of like the most influential games to determining my taste in a lot of games, is Pokemon Colosseum. And I've spoken about the game a couple of times before in terms of how much I love the soundtrack. and how much I love Tsukasa Tawada, the composer. But the game itself is really interesting in that it is a spin-off / sequel to the Stadium series on the N64. It has a Coliseum mode, which is essentially the Stadium mode from the original game on the N64. But Coliseum also adds a story mode. And the story is nothing to write home about, but it's fucking weird.
I don't remember Coliseum.
Okay, so the premise of Coliseum is that there is an evil organization operating in the Ore region, which is... Okay, wait. Before I get into this, the Ore region in which the game takes place is fucking weird. This game is weird. But the Ore region is like Pokemon Mad Max. This shit is almost entirely a desert. Almost everything that you see in the game is canyon or desert. You travel around the world by like kind of like a Final Fantasy X style mini-map where you select your location and you go there. Mm-hmm. And you travel there on this fucking odd-ass motorcycle with like one wheel. Very weird. All of the character designs, like in the game, like the first location you see in the game, the environmental designs and shit, are all post-apocalyptic looking. This place looks like it's been fucking blighted by an environmental apocalypse.
Yeah, I'm looking at screenshots right now, and
this region looks decimated.
It looks like the northern region of fucking X and Y.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does.
Oh my god, these buildings are covered in rust.
Yeah, oh yeah, and like there's an entire town called Purite Town, which has some of the dopest music in the game, that is entirely made out of junk. Like it's
I think that's what I'm looking at right now.
It's a junk town. There's a city called Phanak City, which is kind of like this weird, like, one oasis in the middle of the desert where like everything is kind of like a white, like, marble building with like water kind of flowing down everywhere. And then there's a village called Agate Village in like the only verdant part of the entire region, where it's kind of like a village built into the side of a mountain and kind of built into these trees, these huge trees, which is really cool. There's a place called the Under, which is like an underground Las Vegas Blade Runner little city. That's
where I want to live.
Fucking cool. It's completely underground. And there's like this big Coliseum out in the middle of the desert called the Ore Coliseum, where all of the battles in Coliseum mode take place. But yeah, the story of the game, nothing to write home about. There's an organization operating in the region that's
as usual.
Yeah, that's basically working with another group to steal Pokemon from trainers and to corrupt them by like entirely turning them evil. And then they're redistributing the Pokemon into the region after. So your goal is you play a former member of the organization contracted to steal the Pokemon, who steals the machine that they've been using to kind of steal Pokemon from people in order to steal the evil ones back and to turn them good again.
They made an anime about it?
No, they did not.
They did not?
No, they did not. It is entirely its own thing. This is the game, the story of the game. Like, you play as a bad guy.
Yeah, no, but there's... I'm looking at screenshots of MC from Coliseum in an anime.
Oh.
But I don't know if it's a
maybe it's just a reference.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
But I've never heard of that. If there was a Pokemon Coliseum anime, I would have watched the shit out of that. But the game is populated by a bunch of fucking weird characters. And in particular, one named Mirror B, which I suppose stands for Mirror Ball. He is a disco-themed villain who wears an entirely gold zoot suit kind of thing with a flared collar and big high-heeled platform boots and glasses, and he has a fucking massive Pokeball-colored afro.
Yeah, he does.
His music is dope. It's like a salsa song, and his Pokemon team is entirely Ludicolo's. And when you first see him in the game, proper, like when you battle him for the first time, you enter into a room in a cave, and he is sitting on a platform, standing, dancing on a platform surrounded by his Ludicolo who are also dancing.
Yeah, there he is. I see it. That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah. The music is really, really dope. It's like one of the coolest tracks in the whole game, where it's kind of like a salsa song when it goes like da 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 da.
It's got those hard da da.
Yeah, and it's got big horn flares, which is really fucking cool. And there's even like a vocalist in it going salsa in the background, and like rolling R's like that. It's really fucking funny. But this game is nuts. It's crazy. It's not a very long game. You could probably complete the main story in a couple of hours. It's really not that long. Less than 24 hours, I'd say. And there's a lot of battling to be done in the game because it's mostly kind of focused around that. The major difference between this game and other Pokemon games, RPGs in the series, apart from the map being different or whatever and the narrative being a little different and weird, is that you actually don't catch wild Pokemon in the game. The only way you acquire Pokemon throughout the game is by stealing them from other trainers. Oh, and every battle in the game is a double battle. Which is weird.
That's interesting.
Which is really, really fucking weird. But every battle in the game is a double battle. At least in the narrative. You can play single battle in Coliseum mode, but within the narrative story mode, which is the mode that I play the most, it's completely and entirely double battles. And your starting Pokemon are Umbreon and Espeon. Yeah. It's an extremely...
So why would you change them ever?
I know, that's what... Well, you know, to be fair, I mostly tanked through the game as a kid with just them.
Yeah.
Because they were really strong by the end. But and they can learn a variety of different types of moves, so they were pretty useful in the end. Like, Umbreon can learn shit like Ember, which is pretty helpful. But yeah, towards the end of the game, it gets kind of difficult, and you have to do some pretty tough battles. And some of the shadow Pokemon, which is what they call the evil Pokemon, get difficult to catch. But I have to say, really, really fun game. Weird as fuck spin-off. It has one sequel called Pokemon XD, which I do not own, and I would love to own.
Yeah, I was... me and my friend, the one that we're thinking about doing the Let's Plays soon, we keep looking at XD and being like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
What is that? I want to see.
I want that game so badly.
It looks so good. I
am so desperately in love with weird games, and that is one of the fucking weirdest. So yeah, I definitely think that's one of my favorite spin-offs. Have you got any more?
I probably do. I cannot, for the life of me,
think of them at the moment.
Think of one right now. Well, actually, you know what? While we're on Pokemon Snap, was probably one of the more iconic Pokemon spin-offs.
Yeah,
ever.
It's Pokemon Snap, Hey You Pikachu, and Pokemon Stadium. All those N64 Pokemon games.
Hey You Pikachu was phenomenal the fucking wildest shit.
That is not a good game.
No, it's not. It doesn't work. Of course it doesn't. It was made in the 90s.
I have Pokemon Channel, which is like the sequel to Hey You Pikachu.
Yeah.
That is also a bad game because you mostly just watch TV in it. It's a really stupid premise for a game.
How do we sell these kids fucking more Pokemon things?
It's basically an excuse
to it not work.
It basically is a paywall to watching a Pichu Brothers anime short. It sucks.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's so fucking bad.
The first ever microtransactions.
Honestly, fucking garbage. But yeah, Pokemon Snap, please go off. I've never actually played the game, but I know so much about it. I know so much about the game.
It's one of those weird 90s gems that overall not super long, but replayability was fucking through the roof. Just because of all the, like, you know, you'd have to go back to this level with food, and you'd have to throw it in the grass to get a picture of a pincer, or you like figure out things like, oh, you can knock the Carmeleon into the lava and it'll evolve into a Charizard.
Oh shit!
And like it was just full of like small secrets like that.
Oh, that's cool.
There's like a secret way to get a picture of Mew, which I don't remember, which I think opens up actually a final world that you could not do otherwise. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, what was it?
From what I understand, it kind of plays like a rail shooter, right?
Exactly like a rail shooter, actually.
Okay. Huh.
Except you're taking pictures instead of killing
instead
the cute
of
little
fucking
animals.
poaching or killing Pokemon, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really fucking morbid.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But yeah, no, it's full of like really cool shit. Like, you got the Charizard one, which I thought was one that stuck with me a lot. You've got one where you get bonus points for taking a picture of Pikachu.
Oh.
You lure him over to a surfboard with apples, and you get the surfing Pikachu picture.
Oh, surfing Pikachu.
Which is, it's a really cute little, like, the reference.
The little lad.
The little lad. It also had one of the wildest things where, for a while, but I don't think it lasted too long, you could go to Blockbusters with your Pokemon Snap cartridge and, like, legit print out the photos that you took.
Really?
Yeah, because you could save them. Like, you could save your favorite ones, and Blockbusters had these fucking wild-ass machines that you just shoved your Pokemon Snap cartridge into, and you could print out on, like, high-quality photograph paper.
That's nuts.
It was fucking wild.
Did you ever do that?
No, the Blockbuster around me didn't have one, and for a while, I actually thought that my friend was fucking lying to me, because, you know how it was back then.
Yeah,
like, just
works
stand by
at
this
Nintendo.
truck in Pokemon and you'll get Mew.
Yeah, no.
It's like, yeah, okay, fuck you. But I did it though. Alright, where's he at? Well, my save file, I restarted the game. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sure you did.
Fucking
Why would
bullshit.
you do that if you got the rarest... Anyway.
That's so stupid.
But, yeah, it was fucking crazy. If they could easily make one for the Switch. I think that would be fun. But at the same time, I don't really know
God.
if it would be as good. Because, like, this clearly has a lot of nostalgia factor of, like, just playing with your friends at sleepovers and shit. And I think a Pokemon Snap now would lose kind of that lackluster. Especially of the, like... Because it's the first time as a child that I remember me and my friends, like, finding shit out by ourselves.
It was a time and a place kind of game, wasn't it?
Yeah, because you'd find out shit and be like, oh, you know, like, if you throw the apples near the surfboard, Pikachu goes and surfs on it, and your friend's like, oh, yeah, well, if you hit the Voltorb in the caves, it'll make a shadow, or it'll use an electric move, which will power up the machine, which then makes a shadow that is, like, a secret Pokemon picture.
Oh.
And there's mountains that are shaped like Dugtrio that you can take a picture of too. It's like, oh fuck, man.
That's really cool.
It was like really one of those first like friend driven experiences.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's neat. That sounds like a really good experience that I'm kind of feel like I was robbed of never having. Because I never had a game console until I was 7 years old. And I mean, I'm not old enough to have like grown up with an N64 in like the house
you didn't
proper.
hit that.
Like I'm the first child in my family, and my parents were not people who were interested in video games, so they didn't have an N64. And I only ever played it when I was over at friends' houses, or you know, if you were at like the barber shop and they had like an N64 to play.
Yeah.
So like
back when Walmart still had those N64s strapped to the game cases, and you just be there while your parents did the real shit.
Or like they had like a McDonald's play place or whatever. That's when I would have played games like Pokemon Snap, but I never had the opportunity to. But I've always been interested in that game because it is a fucking weird spin-off, and it's kind of the only
weirdest.
only a thing that you could make then. You know. It's fucking nuts that you...
Like, I feel like with motion controls, it would be fun for the Switch. But at the same time, motion controls are... Like, I think it's the best way to do motion controls right now would be to have a Pokemon Snap game. and kind of get away from the shakiness that was the Wii U of shaking your wrists to oblivion. But I mean, I don't think it'll happen either. I wish it would. I think it would be fun exploring like newer regions with newer Pokemon, and you could probably do some really fun gimmicky stuff with some of them.
I can imagine a contemporary take on that game being really fun, but they'd have to jam pack it with content.
Yeah, it couldn't be as short as the other one because we're not 8 years old anymore.
If you could do like a world tour where you could go to the different regions, that would be neat. It's just, it feels like it's such the sort of game they would never make now.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Be shocked.
Those truly are like those years in the 90s are like a weird kind of experimental time for a lot of companies kind of flexing what they could do with their brands.
And especially like Pokemon.
Yeah, Pokemon.
Especially Pokemon.
I mean, it was a cash cow, so of course you couldn't.
It was
not.
The hottest hotness. I mean, like just in the 90s, you've got fucking like, well, I guess Silver was maybe in early aughts, but whatever. You got like Red, Yellow, Blue, Gold, Silver. You got Pokemon Pinball. You got Pokemon Puzzle League.
Mm-hmm.
You
have Pokemon stuff like
Snap,
Hey You Pikachu, fucking
Stadium,
weird. Stadium 1 and 2, Pokemon TCG, the game, which was a really good game in that it's basically just a Pokemon game, but you play the TCG instead of do Pokemon battles.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a bunch of weird fucking... And then, I mean, even later on, I already mentioned it already, but you get weird stuff like Pokemon Conquest, which is an extremely weird spin-off for the DS. It's a crossover between Pokemon and Nobunaga's Ambition, which is a weird Japanese like turn-based strategy series. And that was localized, which is fucking weird.
Oh my god, these people have Eevee ears.
Yeah, no, it's like you play as a bunch of samurai. It's very weird. It's
got some weird SMT vibes to it, too.
Oda Nobunaga is in the game as a Pokemon trainer, like the real-life historical figure Oda Nobunaga.
Oh, they love doing that shit.
It's fucking so weird. He has a Zekrom. Like...
Yeah.
Alright. So that's really strange. And Pokemon Trozai, one of my favorite spin-offs for the series.
Trozai?
It's a puzzle game for the DS that has just the dopest art style. It looks so good. And I follow the guy who did the art for it
that is good.
It looks so great. I follow the guy who did the art for it on Twitter. I don't remember what his name is. He used to work for Nintendo of America. But Pokemon Trozai has really, really cool artwork. It's like very stylized. It kind of looks like a thick, dark outline cartoon art style. I really love how it looks. It almost has like a Gendy Tartakovsky kind of thing going for it.
Yeah, it's really good.
It looks so... Or like Steven Silver, if you're familiar with Steven Silver. He's the guy who did the designs for like the Clerks animated series. And Danny Phantom. Kind of something like that. Or Kim Possible. He also did Kim Possible.
It seems very... it looks like it feels Western.
Oh, yeah. It's a completely
style.
Weird game. And I love how it looks. It's so cool. I love those character designs so much. They're so good. Lucy Lightfoot, the protagonist, is fucking awesome. There's some extremely weird fucking characters in this series.
I need this game now.
There is a character, like, you fight this evil army called the Phobos Battalion, which is a rad name for a villain faction in a game. But they have really good designs. Like, there's a guy called Buzz, who's like a fucking man in like a bug Kamen Rider type outfit, and you fight this other guy who's this big fucker with like a huge mohawk, and he looks like a Samurai Jack villain. Like, it is a really, really cool spin-off. It's a good puzzle game.
Oh
too.
My god, that's just a Sentai man.
Yeah, he is straight up.
That's weird.
It is.
This is a weird game,
but extremely, extremely odd. It is just they were published by Genius Sonority, which is the same publisher and developer that did Pokemon Colosseum. So they're very good at making weird fucking Pokemon games happen.
Do it again.
Yeah, but
Trozai 2.
Really, really weird. Just a strange game with great character designs. That's a fun spin-off. Puzzle game spin-offs are kind of aplenty, aren't there? I think.
Oh my god, Street Fighter 2, Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yeah.
Fucking probably one of my favorite,
one of my favorite puzzle games
quote
of all
unquote
time.
Tetris games.
Yeah, I love that.
It comes on that fucking goofy ass Capcom stick too.
Yeah. Or it's a Sonic spin-off, I suppose. But the Puyo Puyo game that they turned into Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Yeah.
One of my favorite puzzle games of all time, and it uses the Sonic cartoon characters, which is really, really weird. And like the character designs from the Sonic the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. Mm-hmm. It's really, really weird.
Oh, we almost forgot to mention Mario RPG.
Oh shit, Paper Mario and Mario RPG, the Superstar Saga games. Okay, so
yeah,
Mario,
that fucking good shit. Mario RPG was actually one of the first Mario games that I beat.
Okay,
because I had played Mario World, Super Mario World, because that was right around the time that I was a little babu. I remember being like maybe 4 or 5-ish. Mm-hmm. And like playing it with my dad, but I'd only play the first level because like that's all my child brain could handle. Everything else was kind of hard. I didn't get the jumps clearly, so I kind of watched my dad play that, and so that was fun. But I went on with my life playing video games, and then my grandparents one day brought me Super Mario RPG. With a SNES,
wow.
The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers beat 'em up game, which is also fucking amazing.
That game is dope.
It's not really a spin-off, but oh my god.
It's an underrated
the first level. Yeah, the first level's music is ingrained in my brain like none other. But Super Mario RPG was one of the first Mario games that I remember actually owning. Like I'd play with my friends and stuff, but went through that. That was fun. That is a good awesome. Game. It is weird. It was very strange to have Jumpman in a turn-based style like the Final Fantasies.
Yeah, it is. Well, it was developed by Square Enix, which is extremely weird. Well, not Square Enix, but Square, which is
the
really,
merging.
really weird, and it's chock full of Final Fantasy references. But the game is, like, even just in the visuals department for the time, really, really odd, because it's almost entirely pre-rendered graphics. All the character models are pre-rendered. Yeah. And the worlds a lot of them are pre-rendered. And, like, the battle system is... Well, it's active, isn't it? Like, you have to kind of perform button prompts and presses to execute moves.
Yeah, it's QTE.
Yeah, QTE type stuff, exactly. Before that was even something you could call that. And that translated over to Paper Mario, which is considered like the spiritual successor or sequel series. But the Paper Mario games are incredible, at least the first 2 of them, or the first 3 of them, I should say. Although the third one is not an RPG. But at least in any conventional sense. But the first 2, Paper Mario on the Nintendo 64, which is a very late N64 game, and Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, which is one of my favorite games of all time. Those games are also just incredible both in the visuals department, in that they're unconventional, and they present kind of a weird off-kilter take on the world of Mario.
Yeah,
but also in just kind of the battle system being themed to, in the first Mario, Paper Mario, it's kind of like you're performing in a play, and in the second one, it kind of even goes further into that aesthetic, in that everything is on a fucking stage, and there is an audience that shouts at you, and you can like make if you perform a move perfectly, the audience will give you accolade points.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. It's like a storybook, but like a stage play. It's
a story stage play with the stickers.
Those games are so fun. No stickers. No. No. We ain't talking about none of them stickers.
No, you're not talking about the stickers?
No.
We're here for the good shit.
No.
We don't want to talk about the stickers.
We don't talk about the stickers. We don't talk about the colors. We don't talk about the stickers. Those don't fucking exist.
I don't see stickers.
No, I don't fucking... acknowledge the existence of those goddamn pieces of trash. Fuck. But Mario, Super Paper Mario on the Wii is a very good game.
Yeah.
But no, fucking Paper Mario Sticker Star and Paper Mario Color Splash suck ass. Those games are fucking awful.
Not without their shortcomings, these games.
Those games,
I mean, you gotta fail.
Ass.
You gotta fail to succeed sometimes. They tried something. No one said it was a bad idea. It got released. It was clearly a bad idea.
Those games are a fucking mistake. They're so bad. The entire... If we were talking about least favorite spin-offs, those would be at the fucking top. Because they completely bastardize and simplify the formula that was so perfect in Thousand Year Door. Oh my god, those games actually give me a fucking migraine just thinking about them. They're so bad. They're so bad.
They are.
They're trash. Another series that's had a lot of spin-offs that I really enjoy is the Final Fantasy series. Obviously, both of us are fans of Final Fantasy. Have you ever played a spin-off from the Final Fantasy series?
No. I have not.
You've not?
I had to think about it, but no, I have not, actually. I'm not sure. I gotta think about it.
There was definitely a time in my life where I had played more Final Fantasy spin-offs than I had played actual Final Fantasy games.
Well, that's the thing, like, I don't know what a spin-off would be.
Well,
like, what would...
anything
is Kingdom Hearts a Final Fantasy spin-off?
Nah, yeah, it is. Kingdom Hearts counts, I'd say. It's kind of its own weird thing at this point, but at least initially, the first game is a spin-off of Kingdom Hearts. I mean, when a spin-off can have spin-offs.
When you spin off so hard that you are no longer a spin-off, you're your own property.
That's nuts.
And the third game, which is the 10th game in your installment, can drop all the Final Fantasy stuff because it doesn't have to lean on it anymore.
That's so crazy.
Also, it's confusing.
That's so fucking crazy to think.
It's so funny.
Oh my god.
Man, Kingdom Hearts is a fucking... oh. Like, nothing could ever... do whatever the fuck Kingdom Hearts did ever again, I don't think.
Truly not. Okay, Final Fantasy spin-offs. There's a few that I really, really like. The Final Fantasy Game Boy titles, the Final Fantasy Legend series, are for the original Game Boy, are very, very good. I think the Final Fantasy Legend, the first one, is probably the first Final Fantasy game I ever played, because I played it on my cousin's Game Boy. That is a weird game that later kind of spins off into its own series that gets like a new name and everything. They're basically kind of developed by the guy who did Final Fantasy II, but that game kind of notoriously sucks ass. And one day I will talk in detail about why that is. That game sucks, and it's the worst in the series, by far, in my opinion. Even worse than some of the more offensively boring games.
Offensively
Final
boring.
Fantasy II is a broken game that plays like shit. But the best aspects of the mechanics of that game translate well to a Game Boy RPG series, and that's what kind of turns into the Saga series later on. So the Saga games are kind of based on this thing that I don't know if I'm naming the games correctly. Final Fantasy Legend. Final Fantasy Legend? Yeah, it is Saga. Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. So that is exactly what I am thinking of. But there's the bones of the series kind of laid the foundation for a lot of handheld RPGs to come, including Pokemon, in that even visually it's kind of similar to Pokemon in how it looks. And it plays all right, but that series is really, really fun. You do have a party, and you train humans, mutants, and monsters to be parts of your little guild of adventurers. So kind of a very, very strange game.
It's kind of like Golden Sun E?
A tiny bit. A tiny bit. There is definitely, like, once again, the bones of a lot of handheld exclusive RPGs are in the Saga series.
Yeah.
And Final Fantasy Legend is the first Saga game. And then following that, there's Final Fantasy Legends 2 and 3, which kind of start, and then Romancing Saga, which is kind of the primary Saga games I think most people are familiar with from that point onward. Another really, really good... So here's two weird Final Fantasy spin-offs that I like. They're both part of the Crystal Chronicles series. Now, on the whole, I think the Crystal Chronicles games are bad. They're not fun games. They are multiplayer RPGs that do not work. But the world that they establish for that series to take place in is really interesting. And there's a lot of cool exclusive races to that world. And for a long time, Final Fantasy was publishing games in this series. The Crystal Chronicles series is probably one of the most notable like kind of spin-off franchises in the series, you know? But it was the first Crystal Chronicles game is like a GameCube exclusive thing, and it's not good.
Is that the hold on, I gotta keep going.
It's really bad. But Final Fantasy Chronicles The Ring of Fates, which is a action RPG for the DS, is really, really good. It has a great kind of well thought out narrative and really, really engaging turn-based RPG gameplay, and it looks beautiful. It's such a good-looking game. It's 3D models on the DS that look not offensive to my eyes, and I had a really good time
unlike
playing
Xenoblade?
that game. Yeah, unlike fucking Xenoblade Chronicles, which is a really, really good game that
it doesn't
look amazing, which is fine because it plays well, so I enjoy how it plays. But then, like, that game kind of got a weird kind of sequel that was like on the Wii and on the DS, and that wasn't very good. Then there was two kind of spin-off games that were like sim games called Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles My Life as a King and Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles My Life as a Dark Lord. Those aren't very good games. However, on the Wii, one of the absolute fucking weirdest spin-offs for the Final Fantasy series ever is a Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles game called Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles The Crystal Bearers.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
It is
I know this one.
It is an action RPG set in the world of Crystal Chronicles 1,000 years after the events of the previous games in the series. And it turns out that one of the races present throughout the rest of the series exterminated another one of the races.
Topical.
Yes. So now, the kind of the main, like the main character of the game is one of the human-y race kind of characters. And his name is Lael. And he is a crystal bearer. In this universe, a crystal bearer is somebody who has a shard of one of like the elemental crystals that control the world embedded in their body, and it affords them a special power or ability. And Lael's ability as a crystal bearer is that he can manipulate gravity. So your primary weapon in the game is manipulating gravity. And that's picking
fun.
People up, throwing them around, like using psychokinetic energy.
Yeah.
Combat actions, maneuvers throughout the world to traverse it. It's a free-roaming action-adventure game. It's a single-player game, unlike many of the other games in the series, which had at least a slight multiplayer focus. Or a multiplayer mode. It's an entirely single-player, and it has a really, really engaging story with a great set of characters. The gameplay is a little samey at times, but the narrative itself is genuinely great. Like, really, really, it is a good story. And I had a great time playing it as a kid, and I went back to it a little recently, and I liked it even still. Now, it got really kind of mixed reviews in the West, but generally, it's pretty well regarded in Japan. But it did not do very well sales-wise, unfortunately. But I bought this...
Probably due to the Wii just being what it was.
Yeah, what it was, exactly. I bought the game the day it came out, and I was not disappointed with my purchase. And it is an extremely underrated spin-off to the Final Fantasy series that I don't think anybody gives the proper credit it is owed. Because it is a deeply, deeply experimental game with like a bunch of weird ideas that like the designer of the game didn't want to make a game where the main character's primary weapon is a weapon. Mm-hmm. He wanted it to be like a power that is both violent and non-violent, one that could be used for combat and traversal. And I think he succeeded. It's a really, really interesting little game, and I kind of feel bad that it fell into obscurity. But it's one of my favorite spin-offs of all time.
I'm looking at a screenshot of Mr. holding up a skull around a bunch of dogs, and the dogs are like, "Oh, yay!"
Oh, yeah.
So I imagine that's a good way to pacify them.
Yeah, you can use different, like, you can fight those dogs, or you can pacify them. You can run past them and, like, you know, pull yourself forward using your gravity power. You have combat options.
That's cool.
Yeah, and
combat
it's
options.
all played with the fucking Wii remote, so it's kind of goofy.
Oh, yeah.
But I really admire the ambition behind it, and it's really
well.
Really
the Wii was a very, very ambitious console. Oh, Mario Strikers on the Wii was actually probably one of the best sports games.
Yeah. Mario Strikers Charged
in a while.
Yeah, that is a fun game, and underrated, extremely underrated. Oh, another interesting Final Fantasy spin-off that I think should be of interest to you, considering how much you like the games that later kind of came out of this, is Final Fantasy: The Four Heroes of Light, which is a DS RPG with the character designs by the designers and basically the developers entirely of Bravely Default. But it's a Final Fantasy game that kind of eventually became Bravely Default. Yeah, it's really cool.
That's really cool.
It uses a lot of the traditional elements from Final Fantasy. It's hard. It is a hard fucking game. It is not easy. And it has a very antiquated, olden style battle system. The entire point of the game is to be like kind of a nostalgic JRPG. In like the very much in the vein of like the first 3 Final Fantasies, barring 2 because it sucks. But like Final Fantasies 1 and 3 specifically are the games it reminds me of the most, and that it's story heavy in a sense, and that there's a lot of characters with a lot of names. But it's also not it's not necessarily a deep narrative in any sense, and it's really, really good. But yeah, the game was really successful, and the development team had such a good time working on it that they started to make a sequel. But that sequel eventually became Bravely Default.
Of course it did.
So this is kind of the first
game in that series. That's cool because it's kind of like, we don't really want it to be a spin-off too much anymore. We can just make it
its own thing. Exactly. And a lot of the bones of Bravely Default exist in Four Heroes of Light. Aesthetically, also, it's the same character designer. But they also designed the world to kind of look like a pop-up book almost.
Yeah,
it's
really
kind
of
cool.
like Bravely Default's just straight up.
Yeah, a little bit.
It has one of the best art styles, I think. Fun fact, the character designer for the Bravely Default people, I can't remember his name, but he also did Nier Automata.
Yeah,
which is
Akihito Yoshida.
Fucking one of my top character designs ever.
He did, let's see, he's mostly known for Final Fantasy stuff, but he also was kind of a character designer for Final Fantasy III, the DS remake, which is one of my favorite games. He was the character designer for 4 Heroes of Light, and then he became the main character designer going forward for Final Fantasy XIV, and for Bravely Default's series, like all of them, and like a whole bunch of other shit, like stuff that I haven't even heard of, called like I don't know what the fuck Unsung Story Tale of the Guardians is, but it's an upcoming tactical RPG for like every console, which is really, really interesting. He also did kind of like the main character design for Final Fantasy 12, which is one of my favorite games in the Final Fantasy series, and a completely underrated game in the series as well, I think. 12 is really, really cool. It's got a weird battle system, but I like how it plays. It's kind of one of those... it's almost weird because 12 in itself almost exists as a spin-off, because it's the only Final Fantasy game that that and the games in its sub-series, I should say, are the only Final Fantasy games that take place in Ivalice.
Yeah.
But Ivalice is kind of a thing that exists in like Final Fantasy Tactics, which is its own thing, and like Vagrant Story, and a whole bunch of really weird kind of like... Ivalice is almost its own series, but it's kind of a bunch of disconnected Final Fantasy games take place in that world. It's very strange, actually, isn't it? But Ivalice is a really, really cool fictional world, and 12 is a really good game.
It's funny how Final Fantasy is such a series that can be like, oh, this one's great, this one fucking sucks, I hate it.
Some of them truly are bad.
And they're so detached. Like, some of them are so detached.
They really are, especially once you get past Final Fantasy VI. The games become so different in terms of their identity. Like, 7 is obviously what it is. It's a juggernaut franchise in its own right. And then 8 is kind of like this weird thing that just exists, that like a lot of people like and a lot of people hate. I'm kind of in the middle on it. I used to really dislike it, but I've started to really appreciate elements of it. 9 is just its own thing that's kind of like... 9 is the closest of any Final Fantasy recently, which is funny to say it's recent considering it's an old-ass game at this point, that kind of tried to be a little bit more like the first 6 games in the series. And then you go forward, and then, okay, you got 10, which has the battle system perfect, but like everything else is kind of up in the air in terms of how it works. Story is really weird. The characters are interesting but weird. The world traversal has been nerfed to the point where it's just selecting areas on a map. And then like it's got a weird sequel, and then Final Fantasy XI is an online game, and then Final Fantasy XII is Final Fantasy XII, and it's got one sequel, and it takes place in Ivalice, and that's a whole thing that we just talked about. And then 13 is 13. It's not good. It has like 2 worse sequels. That game is bad.
But Lightning, though.
No.
Lightning. No. Japan loves Lightning.
Is a good design, and that's it.
That's where it stops.
She is what a well-designed character in terms of her appearance, and nothing
depth.
More.
So much depth.
She is.
Effectively. You can almost wet your toe in it.
Effectively, what she is Cloud, but with none of that Disc 3 character development that makes Cloud a good character. You know? She really fucking sucks.
But she's back. Hey, there she is. There. Oh, why isn't this selling good? Oh, God.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad. This is bad. Very, very bad.
Horrible.
I don't know why anybody would ever want to play Final Fantasy 13 ever again. Those games suck fucking ass. 14 is online. 15 is not good. Like, it's so up in the air. It's so up in the air.
14 seems fun, though.
Yeah,
I follow a couple
14
people
does
on
seem
Twitter
fun.
that are like,
I've
like
heard
it.
it's great.
Plus that Nier Automata fucking shit that they're doing soon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a crossover event, and I'm like, oh boy.
Oh, that's...
And Yoko Taro being the crazy
it?
motherfucker. Yeah, Yoko Taro being the crazy motherfucker that he is, it's going to be canon, so I'm going to have to watch it on YouTube.
God, it's nuts. Totally nuts. Just fucking crazy. Actually, that they even got him to do that to begin with.
Oh, man. What, Yoko Taro and the other guy, I can't remember his name, the, like, assistant director, I think, or maybe it was the combat director. Anyway, I don't know. They were like, don't worry, guys, we're making the entire team of Final Fantasy XIV play through Nier Automata before they even start doing anything.
What?
I was like, okay, good.
Would it be almost an insult to call Nier a spin-off of Drakengard, or would that be accurate?
Oh, God.
Or are they just spiritual successors? Which is...
I don't feel qualified to answer this, because I don't have any experience with the Drakengard series.
I know very little about Drakengard.
I believe it's the same world, so you could argue that it is, in fact, a spin-off.
Okay.
But I don't know at what point it would be a spin-off if it's just the same world in the future.
And it's the same world, a lot of the same developers, the same creator. It's not really a successor to Drakengard, but it's not quite a sequel because it's not a named sequel to Drakengard. It's not like Nier is Drakengard 4.
Yeah.
So I guess Nier is kind of a spin-off of Drakengard.
I guess it would be.
In which case, would that mean that your favorite spin-off is Nier Automata?
Yeah, if we're counting Nier as a spin-off of Drakengard, then Nier Automata takes first place hand over heel fucking... Wait, no, I fucked that one up.
That would definitely be one of them.
Yeah. But that's a good question. I don't know how much the lore kind of goes into it, because I know there's like weapons in Nier Automata that you can get that are just straight up like, oh yeah, it's the Dragoon Lance. This is straight up from Drakengard.
From Drakengard, yeah.
So like it's like, oh, okay, well this means that technically same world, because also there's like there's characters, I guess. Small spoilers for Nier and Nier Automata, but there's characters that bite it super hard in Nier that kind of come back, sort of.
Okay.
But not really. Like, it's explained why they're back, and you're like, oh, fuck, that's good. That's good. But, like, there's a whole, like, oh, this model is a thing. Because there's two twin models that during the replicant test, which is pretty much what all of Nier 1 is about, they fuck it up really hard and they bite it. and then you're in Nier Automata and you're in the camp and they're just sitting there and you go talk to them and like, hey, this is Devola and Popola, we can sell you things. We'll be more implicated in the story later, don't worry. Can I talk to you more? No, get out of here. What? Okay, cool, I guess. And of course, there's a Emil that comes back too.
Yeah, Emil is always just kind of
like, what?
Who is just his own thing.
Yeah, self-insert character.
He is really just Yoko Taro's self-insert, isn't he?
Well, I don't know at what point he's Yoko Taro's self-insert or if Yoko Taro is his self-insert. Like, I don't know at what point. Because Yoko Taro used to fucking... Before he had the Emil head, it was just he'd do all the interviews with finger puppets.
Yeah.
Because he's a strange man.
He's a weird dude, isn't he?
Yeah, there's also... was it during Nier or Nier Automata? Or maybe one of the Drakengards. He had, like, a mental breakdown and just locked himself in the closet for an entire day's work.
Holy shit.
Just hid in the closet.
Oh, Yoko, you poor man.
Yoko Taro.
Stop driving yourself nuts.
My boy.
That man. He's losing his mind.
Yeah, if you play those games, you know why.
Gosh. That just sounds totally nuts. The poor man is driving himself crazy making these wild games. I think
someone's got to do
I think
it.
that's a lot of spin-off talk for now. We've almost clocked in at an hour.
I think we're going to have a part 2 for this one for sure.
For sure. There's a lot to say about game spin-offs, and I mean that goes for a lot of the stuff we talk about in bonus round. There's always a potential to come back and re-examine and talk about this again because there's so much interesting stuff. But in terms of spin-offs, I'd say that's enough for today.
Yeah, I got to go do some stuff.
Yeah, and so do I. But until next time, thank you very much, and this has been Bonus Round.
Goodbye.